bringing hope the world over. Hope Channel.
What if we said you could add 10 years to your life?
What if we said you could reverse your disease? Would you believe us?
Here's a fact. 2 out of every 5 women and 1 out of every 5 men would trade up to 3 to 5 years of their life just to attain their ideal weight.
But here's a secret: you don't have to trade in years of your life. We offer you no fountains of youth, no miracle pills, no radical surgery. Just plain, simple, practical advice guaranteed to add not just years to your life, but life to your years. I'm Weanne.
And I'm Mark. And once again, we would like to welcome everybody on another episode of Longevity Secrets.
Today, we have a special treat for our viewers. We shall be revealing one of the biggest secrets of longevity. Are you guys ready for this? The secret, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, lies in, drumroll please, a plant-based diet.
Wow, that's really good, Weanne. The plant-based diet right now is currently overtaking a lot of people in Manila. They are trying to practice this type of diet so that they would be healthy, not only in their spiritual life, but also in their physical life.
That's true. Thanks to the Need Health Ministries, this secret is known not just to people of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, even people from the Baptist, Methodist, Charismatic Church, the Daughters of St. Mary, Daughters of St. Paul, people in colleges, universities, corporate companies, and communities are moving towards a plant-based diet.
That's really interesting, Weanne. Would you like to join the trend right now? For more information and to help us to give more insights on this topic, may we request Dr. Blecenda Varona, the Nutrition and Lifestyle Consultant of the Need Health Ministries, to give us some insights on how we would be able to apply things that would make us a lot healthier than before.
Thank you, Mark and Weanne. And the plant-based diet actually can be part of the healing, and it has a major role when it comes to longevity secrets. When you want to study the story of the Okinawans, the Sardinians, and the Seventh-day Adventists in California, this has actually the role when it comes to the centenarians. And today I'd like to present to you practical ways really to help you make your own choice, especially when it comes to healthy food choices. Okay, we all know that from the first dawn of life to its last golden sunset, all creatures should eat. And each creature has its own specific diet, from the largest to the smallest. Each creature has its own unique diet. And God has given us this uniqueness. Man also has his own diet. In general, you know, when we say uniqueness, man has his own diet. Let's try to see some of the diets. When we say omnivore, this person eats anything like meat, fish, fowl, along with plant foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. There's another classification of diet. We call it complete vegetarian or pure vegetarian. This person only subsists on plant foods. No dairy products, no meat, no fish. And there's another classification, we call it lacto-ovo-vegetarian. Lacto means milk and ovo is egg, plus of course, other vegetable foods. You know, the other classification, they call it pesco, that is fish eater. You know, they only subsist on fish and vegetable and sometimes lacto-ovo. There's another classification, we call them semi-vegetarian or rare meat eater. They eat only meat once in a while. Actually, they consider themselves vegetarian, but they only eat like 2 servings of this amount of meat for the whole week. And sometimes it's just the meat in the pasta or you know, pancit, or sometimes meat in the soup. You know, they don't actually eat large amount of meat, but it's just the small amount of meat, they are considered as semi-vegetarian. Now, since man can subsist on any of this diet, why do we really need to learn? Why do you really need to, to watch this show? Because I personally believe that one of your goals is, you want to know the secret, okay? And the secret of health, and the secret of longevity. And when you want to know that, diet has a big role. Okay, let's try to compare the creatures. Let's try to see comparing the carnivores to the omnivore. You know what? The carnivores, they have long canine and sharp cutting molars for tearing and shearing flesh. While the herbivores, they have rounded corners. Actually, their molars act like rhinestone, pangata, And then the carnivores, it's really designed for, as they grab on other animals. If you want to see the intestinal tract of the carnivores, actually, usually they're just single and very short. If you want to imagine the intestinal tract, it's just like it is like a tube, no? And it's so short. There's no pouches like that, similar to the human to a human intestinal system. Now, while the herbivores, they have several stomach and long intestinal tract. If you want to compare the acidity, it is more, 3 times acidic for the carnivore comparing to the herbivore, because they're really intended to eat meat and they need really good, acid for the digestion of protein. Now, since men, let's try to see men right now. Maybe you would say, how about you? Okay, how about, human being? Let's try to see. The dentures, the digestive system and the dentures are a little bit similar to the herbivores. But so far, it is really different. No, there's a big difference comparing it to the herbivores. Our dentures, we don't have that long canines. And the intestinal tract is also long. It's longer than that of the carnivore, but not near as long as the herbivores. But when you say that this is human, this is a person, I can say that we are unique. Although some studies would say that we are really similar to those animals who are really eating fruits. But I personally believe that we are so special. God created you so special because amongst the creature, you are the only one who have the power to think intelligently. The creatures, many of them are vegetarians like the herbivores. They only eat, these vegetables, but they also eat talbos ng kamote. But we human beings, we also eat talbos ng kamote, but we make it so beautiful. We can turn our talbos ng kamote into salad, into talbos ng kamote, the sweet potato leaves, into juice. We can turn that into, with coconut milk ginatan, and we can turn that into sauté. We can even turn that into tempura, and we have lots and lots of recipes for this vegetable, unlike other creatures that they have just one. So we have the power to think intelligently. And that's the reason why you're watching our show, because you want really to be wise enough to choose what is really best for you. Now let's try to see whether plant foods or animal products would give us sufficient amount of nutrients like vitamins and minerals and carbohydrates and fats and oils and proteins. We will check. Now, we will try to examine whether plant foods or animal products would really give us this amount of nutrients. The best source, of course, is to be revealed today. Let's try to see. Let's try to examine vitamins and minerals. Is it really from plant or it's really from animal products? Now, it was part of history, and it was actually the story of the sailors before. Hundreds of sailors died of scurvy because the food that was served to the sailors was just composed of dried sea biscuits, dried pork and beef, washed down with plenty of grog and beer. And you know what? The sailors during that time don't have fruits and vegetables in their diet. But not now anymore. Now we give seminars to the sailors, and we have a very good education programs to the seafarers, and now they're turning into a healthy lifestyle. And now they're learning how to eat plant food. Okay? They are now appreciating when it comes to the benefit of the plant foods. But during those times, they don't have all these fruits and vegetables to the point that many of them died of scurvy. And it was Dr. James Lind that discovered that by just adding a lemon or orange a day, and oops, there was no more scurvy for the seafarers. And it was vitamin C who had cured the scurvy. And it was actually an incredible discovery that, you know, the vitamin C can actually prevent sickness, can actually save the sailors from the sure death. You know, a similar scenario was repeated by the use of all this to prevent diseases, to prevent cancer, to prevent heart disease. And right now, you know, many of our participants in the Need Health Ministries are really enjoying a lot, and they are now enjoying the benefit of the plant-based diet because of this mighty, you know, health-enhancing chemicals in food. A similar scenario was repeated by the use of whole grains to treat beriberi and dark green leafy vegetables to treat night blindness. No wonder that fruits and vegetables had been called the protective foods, because this can actually protect us from diseases. You know, when I say phytochemicals, the phytochemicals right now is a new when it comes to discovery. You know, I personally believe as dietitian that there are lots and lots of phytochemicals in plant foods that are still to be discovered by science. You know what? When I was a student in nutrition, there was no phytochemical in book. But right now, you try to discover, and there are lots and lots of phytochemicals that they are now discovering. And I personally believe that there are hundreds and thousands of phytochemicals in plant foods. Now, what is these phytochemicals? These are unique health-enhancing chemicals in plants. And the uniqueness for this is so simple. The uniqueness is based on color. So meaning the red color has different uniqueness when you compare it to purple, when you compare it to yellow and green, when you compare it to other colors, each of this color has its own uniqueness. Okay, let's shift to another lesson. How about carbohydrates? That is your energy food. Carbohydrates, that is sugars and starches and fiber. Where can we get this kind of nutrient? Obviously, you can only get the good amount of carbohydrates from your plant foods. That is your fuel food. That is your energy food. How about fats and oils? You know, obviously, you can only get good amount of fats and oils from plant foods. You know, the amount is just in moderation. It is, you know, the good type, which is unsaturated, and it has extra advantage of having plant sterol. But when you get your fat from animal products, obviously the amount is excessive. It is not the good type, and it has extra disadvantage of having cholesterol. Now, so we want really to gather all the protection so that we can live long, okay? Now, so from what we have discussed so far, we can safely conclude that plant foods can give you vitamins and minerals and carbohydrates and, you know, good amount of fats and oils. But the next question is, how about protein, the nutrient that seems to wear super importance in our society? Okay, let's try to see. For many years, it was assumed that, you know, animal protein is really the primary source of all essential amino acids, superior in quality and abundant in quantity, while plant protein is lacking in essential amino acid, poor in quality, and too low in quantity. Are these assumptions right? Modern scientific research suggests otherwise, but let's take a look at what proteins are. It is being compared now to the letters of the alphabet. You know, if you gather the letters of the alphabet, you gather them, and then you can create vast number of words. Same is true with amino acids. Okay, you gather the amino acids, and when you form this, they can also create vast number of proteins. So this is really good news for you guys. You don't need to worry about the protein because there are lots and lots of proteins available in the plant kingdom. All we have to do is really venture, you know, you try, you create many recipes on this. And I would assure you that you can actually get good amount of protein. Now, where do this amino acid come from? All amino acid come from the action of the sun rays on the leaf. You know, photosynthesis, basic science, and it is basically from the leaves. And you know this, if you want to compare other foods, you know, the kernel of the corn is different from the corn silk and is different from the corn leaf. These differences continue from fruit to fruit, vegetable to vegetable, and even grain to grain, and even from beans to beans and legumes to legume. Imagine this is really a wide variety of protein when it comes to uniqueness. And it's not only that, it's a wide variety of protein at the same time, it's a wide variety of protection. Now, if man eats plant protein, this is what happens. The protein is being disassembled by his digestive system and then reassembled again to form specific protein. Now, if the cow eats grass, the same process takes place. The protein from the grass is disassembled and then reassembled again by the digestive system of the cow. Now, I would like to show you here that neither man nor animal can synthesize the essential amino acid but must obtain them from the plant kingdom. Now, plant protein is not lacking in essential amino acid. Rather, plant protein is the primary source of all essential amino acid if we see this chart. Okay? So the chart here will really tell us that the main source actually is the plant kingdom. Okay, if you eat your vegetable or your grain here, that is your protein, and then that becomes food protein to other animals, and then sometimes some people would eat the beef, and that becomes the protein of that person. So again, if you want really to be wise enough, you go to the main source. Okay, look at this. Many people are following this path. You know, they enjoy the meat, they enjoy all these delicious dishes from the flesh and the fat and the cholesterol and all this. When they are still young and healthy, they do that. But when they're already sick, you know, people who are sick of cancer, they immediately turn here. And they would say, oh, you know, that person died of cancer and he was vegetarian. But the problem is, he just turned vegetarian, you know, when the moment that she realized that she had already a few months to live. You know, so crazy, huh? So here is a protection supposedly, but you know what? It must really be done for a long time before you can actually gather the protection. But you can be sure of the protein if you go this way. I've met so many people, and they are now interested to follow a healthy choice. But you know what? Sometimes I would say, it's too late for you. But I'm appealing to the viewers right now that don't wait for sickness before you do this, okay? Don't wait for sickness because it might be too late for you, okay? Now, is animal protein really superior to plant protein? This is a very simple question, and the biological protein value is measured when the protein is being digested and absorbed and utilized by the body. Now, in the laboratory, the highest biological protein value is egg. It has 100. So they compare all the items, all the proteins to eggs. And let's try to see. If you choose the whole, you know, the whole food, like the whole grains, you know, unrefined, you can have higher biological protein value. Comparing the meat that you really love, no, you compare it to your beans and to your vegetables. You know, they are so close to each other, being surpassed only by milk and eggs. So I can assure you that, hey, you can get good amount of protein when it comes to plant foods. Okay, how about the quantity? There's no problem in the quantity because, you know, it's so easy to get the amount of protein in your plant foods. Actually, you have the best quality of protein when you take it from plants. Because it's not just protein. It's not just, you know, it's not just the bodybuilding that you want. It's not only for growth, but it is also loaded with good amount of vitamins and minerals and many protections. So we can safely conclude that, you know, plant foods can give you the primary source of all essential amino acid. It is equal in quality and in quantity with meat. And, you know, it has an advantage of actually, you know, it can give you protection when it comes to diseases. Plant foods, while animal foods can actually give you trouble, okay? If you have animal foods, it will actually raise your cholesterol and triglyceride, and it will raise your, you know, your free radicals, and later on, it can be the cause of your sickness. So go plant foods because it can actually decrease so many problems, so many sickness. And then it can decrease your risk for heart disease, adult diabetes, and even high blood pressure. Even cancer is reduced if you eat good amount of plant foods. But sometimes some people are questioning plant foods, especially the legumes, the plant protein. They thought that it is actually related to gout. And then because of that idea, they're afraid to eat beans and they are afraid to eat plant proteins because they thought that it can actually hurt the joints. You know, let's try to see. In our book, we have here the Healing Wonders of Diet, and we have written in that the diet for gout, and it's actually a low purine diet. You know, a low purine diet is so simple, and it is just so easy to follow. We have also created another book, and we call that the Cooking Smart, and the Cooking Smart can actually help you venture and discover many recipes on plant foods. Okay, now sometimes beans has a big question. Legumes and beans, but the good news here is it can actually protect many diseases. Okay? Now, what people used to think is that, you know, beans are the major cause of joint, which is commonly known as arthritis, but let's try to see. The best diet for arthritis actually is low purine. Now, when we say low purine, it is low in purine. Okay, the next question is, what is really purine? That is a foreign word. Okay, so purine here is actually related to protein-rich food. So let's try to see some protein foods. Okay, this one is protein-rich food. Okay, yes, that's a protein-rich food. That one is also protein-rich food. That is dairy products, milk and eggs is also considered as protein-rich food. And beef and shrimp and beans. When we say beans, that is also considered as protein-rich food. When we say beans, that is your soybeans and white beans and kidney beans and lentils and garbanzos, and you have all these kinds of beans. Okay, when we say seeds, you can include all kinds of seeds, and that is actually considered as your protein food, especially for vegetarian. That is the main source of protein. Now, how about turkey and chicken? Obviously, they're also protein. And the internal organs, okay, the internal organs like bopis and sisig, the pig's brain and the liver, and these are all internal organs. This kind of food are also protein. Now, when all these proteins are being disassembled, that becomes amino acid, and later on that amino acids become purine, and later on that purine becomes uric acid. Supposedly, we need this in certain amount, but in excess, it should be excreted in the urine, and there is possible excretion if the diet is low in fat. But if the diet is high in fat, instead of going out in the urine, it would go out, it would be retained in the system. Now, let's try to compare internal organs and muscle. Obviously, the internal organs have compact cells. You know, it is really concentrated. It is smooth cell. While the muscle meat, it is striated, and that is actually designed for movement. Now, when you want to really count the number of cells, obviously liver and brain, sisig, you know, all these contain, you know, compact cells. And these compact cells actually have more cells. And obviously, if there is more cells, you know, we have really to count the number of cells. And why do we need to do that? Because purine is in the cell. So meaning more number of cells, more purine. Lesser number of cells, lesser purine. The problem in purine is it is water soluble. It mixes up with water. So those people who keep on drinking, you know, eating, you know, dishes with internal organs, they would say that, hey, anyway, it's just soup. Soup of what? Soup of internal organs. So same story. Purine mixes up with water. So even though you drink the soup, it's still high in purine. Some people keep on eating some vegetables, but it's really loaded with, you know, with this amount of internal organs, and it's really high in purine. So obviously, we cannot say yes to internal organs. When I say no to internal organs, it is the internal organs of fish, internal organs of beef and chicken, and, you know, all this. So they are really concentrated in purine. But in spite of that, why people blame legumes for their pain? Because they thought that legumes actually is vegetable dish. No. When you have your legumes, it must be your entree. It must be your main dish. That is your substitute for your chicken and your beef and your chicken. It is proven right that that cannot hurt you, especially if you don't eat a high-fat diet, especially if you don't have meat in your diet, that cannot hurt you, and that can actually give you protection. Can you still remember our lecture about heart health? You know, giving health to the endothelium? And that actually is the reason, you know, when you have the beans. That's the reason why we really need to explain it well to you, so that later on it won't hurt even the joints, and it can give protection to the vessels. You have to eat really the beans. Now, going back again to our lecture about diabetes, and I have mentioned there that diet for diabetes is really greens and beans. Hey friends, this is it. Okay? So you eat the beans and you eat the legumes, and that can protect you and can control your blood sugar. Now, it was before when they keep on asking me about the research about this diet, and I'm so happy because there is one study done by Choi in Harvard University, 12-year prospective study, and it was done to 47,000 men, and they have this concluded, you know, that high meat diet will increase gout by 40%. You know, it's high, really. That these are now to be blamed when it comes to pain. Okay, this can actually prove you that the beans cannot hurt you. There are other items in food that is exact cost of pain, especially the joint pains. Okay, when it comes to meat, gout can increase you by 40%, and the worst offenders in meat group are beef, pork, and lamb. Okay, how about seafoods? Okay, they have discovered that eating high seafoods will increase gout by 50% higher than meat. And obviously, that is because of the internal organs in seafoods. You don't separate the internal organs, you know, the belly and the head of the seafoods from the flesh. That can actually be the cost of that high rate when it comes to possibility. Per day, each additional serving of meat will increase gout by 21%. But per week, each additional serving of seafoods will increase gout by 7%. So meaning, if you eat your seafoods every day, so that is 7 times 7, that is 49, so that is 49% possibility. So you have to blame the seafoods, okay? Some people keep on, they cook the mongo, but they have seafoods in the mongo. Okay, don't blame the mongo, you blame the seafoods. Okay, sometimes you cook the mongo, and then you put what's that? The pork or the chicharron. Do not blame the mongo, you blame the chicharron, and they are really the culprit of your pain. So again, my friends, the major cause of pain when it comes to gout is really the seafoods. And God doesn't want us to eat that kind of food. You can even recall, you can even review the recommendations in Leviticus 11, and it's exactly not a food for us. Okay? And here is another conclusion, a very beautiful conclusion from Dr. Choi. And he said, the association of purine-rich food with gout had been long suspected but never proven. Any contribution of protein to risk was uncertain. And this is the first evidence that beans and peas can be strongly protective. So my friends, this can actually protect you and me from the pain. Do not blame the beans. Do not blame the seeds. It's actually the meat that can hurt you. So again, I'm so happy because when God has given us the food, He knows what is really best for us. And even in the garden, you know the best diet. And the best diet actually is composed of so simple recommendation. It is composed of fruits and vegetables, and nuts and grains, and it's right there on the ground. And I'm sure that when you try to discover many things on this plant-based diet, you will be able to discover healing, and you will be able to discover one of the most effective ways and strategies, especially when you want to discover longevity secrets.
Thank you, Dr. Varona. To our viewers out there, we are inviting you to join the trend. Eat a plant-based diet starting today.
That's true, Weanne. But most of all, knowledge is power. Without power, we won't be able to make the right choices that would enable us to get rid of the worst disease of all, which is ignorance.
Yes, but remember that knowledge is not enough. We have to apply the secrets of nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and of course, trust in God in our everyday lives. But let's not just stop there.
Let us share these secrets with our friends, our neighbors, our relatives, and our brothers and sisters. Once again, I am Mark.
And I am Weanne, inviting you to join us on the next episode of Longevity Secrets.
Bringing hope the world over. Hope Channel.